Hi everyone, we are going to see the continuation of process and we are seeing the producer consumer problem for implementing under shared memory for IPC. In this, the producer consumer problem is nothing but using shared memory. The producer produces a data and the data will be placed in a memory location and the consumer consumes that data from that same memory location. In this, based on the buffer size, it is categorized into two size. It is unbounded buffer and bounded buffer. That is nothing but the buffer which resides the region of memory which is shared by the producer and the consumer process. A product which can be produced by the producer will be placed on the buffer which is on the memory location of the producer, while the consumer consumes the data. It places the data which is in the same memory location which is produced by the producer. But while the time period the consumer consumes the data from the memory location, if the producer is getting ready with another data, it will be placed on the next consecutive memory location of the memory which is shared by the producer and consumer. For this we need more memory space, right? So this is consumes more than one memory location for producing and consuming the data. So based on the size of the memory, we are segregating it as bounded buffer and unbounded buffer. In this, the unbounded buffer is nothing but it doesn't have a practical limit or size for the buffer. That is, the consumer may have to wait for new items, but the producer can always produce it, because for example, if we say it, there is a large space of which is of very vacant, then the producer can produce n number of data and it can place in the memory space, because he is having large space and there is no boundary limit for that memory location or buffer size. So in this unbounded buffer, the producer can produce n number of data, but the consumer has a constraint that only after the producer produces the data, he can access that from the memory location. So consumer has to wait till the producer produces the data. This is of one type which is under unbounded buffer. Then the next one is bounded buffer. A bounded buffer is nothing but it has a fixed buffer size, that is limited buffer size. In this case, the consumer must wait if the buffer is empty. That is the same scenario which I said earlier. The consumer should wait till the data is produced by the producer. If the producer is not produced, the consumer doesn't have anything to consume, right? So he has to wait till the buffer is getting data, and the producer must wait if the buffer is full. In previous scenario, we have said the size is unlimited, so it is a bulk of data can be produced by the producer and he can place it on the buffer continuously. But in this, the producer is having only limited space access. So once if that allotted buffer size is filled with the data, the producer has to wait till the consumer consumes the data from the buffer. After the consumer consumes the data from the buffer, that particular space will be free. So it can be used by the producer for producing the data. It is nothing but, for example, if I say what to say, there is a large parking space. For example, let's take it as an ground or open space. In this, n number of vehicles can be parked at a same time. This can be used as an example for unbounded buffer. There is no specific boundary, it is of vast space. So whatever the vehicles which are coming, it is considered as a producer. So it can be parked at a same time whenever the space is free, till n number of data can be produced. So n number of vehicles can be placed. But in bounded buffer, we can take it as, for example, it is of limited parking space area. For example, if we take it as a parking space in an apartment, in this what to say, in an apartment, not okay, okay, a parking space in something like a mall, okay. In this, they will be having an parking area, okay. Only if it is free, we can park the vehicle. But once if that parking slot is filled with all vehicles, what we will be doing, we will be waiting till the vehicles are leaving the parking area. After a vehicle is let out, we will be allocated with that space, right? So this is for bounded buffer, that is the buffer size is limited. So if it is free, then only the producer can produce it. Once it is completely filled, the producer must wait till the consumer consumes the data, and after the buffer gets free, it will consume that buffer space for producing the data. So this is the two types of buffer for implementation of producer consumer problem. This is nothing but the coding for implementation of producer consumer problem. That is, the buffer size is checked, and based on the buffer size, we are specifying it as bounded or unbounded buffer.